Regular savings. We're going to talk about loans, mortgages, student loans, and investments. That's sort of the topic of today. Okay. Basically, the fundamental concept I'm going to get here is save as much as you can and minimize your loans. That's your goal for life, okay? If you have a loan of $200 a month you have to pay, that's $200 out of your pocket that you don't have to spend, okay, right? So when you pay off, I'm going to use myself as an example. When I graduated teachers college, I think I was about 50 grand in debt from student loans. I got a lot of money in student loans. My parents are good people. I love my mother a lot, but I think she just assumed that I would get a full scholarship to university. I think that was her assumption, okay, because she saved very little for me. She bought me a $3,000 computer when I went off to university, and that's what it's powerful at, like about a tenth as powerful as the phone that you have on there. The storage on that thing was 156 megabytes. These aren't gigabytes, these are megabytes, okay? All right, so say that doesn't help me at all today, this off the junk, okay? So I had to borrow pretty much my entire way through school, and you guys will too. The point I'm trying to get for that is, I had a loan of about $500 a month I was paying on student loans, okay, which meant for me no car, okay? It meant for me no much of anything when you're starting off. As soon as I have that paid off, it's like a $500 raise, okay? And we'll get to that, how we deal with that in a little bit. Let's talk about savings first of all, okay? Yes, okay. Right now as a student, I'm going to be your mother for a sec. You should be saving at least half of your salary for university. And I'm sorry that I'm your mother for a second, but if you're in high school and you have a job and you're blowing it all, I wish you luck, okay, for yourself, okay? Because the thing is, reality as a teenager, you have more spare cash than you're ever going to have in your life, and that's a depressing thought. Okay, when I was in university, when I was in university, I worked at a co-op placement, and I worked there sort of part-time as an accounting firm, and I worked sort of 20 hours a week all through university. And I was complaining to one of my friends there, who was probably about my age now, like, so he's about 35 or so. And I said, I should be taking more money than I am now. He goes, listen, you're going to have more money now, spare change, than you're ever going to have in your life. What happens, what is he saying? What happens as you grow up? What happens to your money? Kids, mortgages, cars, all that sort of stuff, right? When you're young, for you guys don't have to pay for food. You don't have to pay for anything right now. Maybe you just give your parents $20 for gas a week. Like that's sort of your expenditure right now that you have to do. Okay, yes, you buy clothes, fine, okay, whatever, okay, but as far as your actual necessities that you have to pay out of your life, there's nothing. So for me to ask you or your mother to ask you to save half of the university probably doesn't hurt. Okay. If you can't do that, you should start. Okay. When you grow up, the experts say, I think it's 10 to 20% of your salary. Okay, now that's very difficult. Okay, because when you get your first job, what they say is after 2 years of working or 2 years at university, the average university graduate makes $45,000, which isn't a lot of money. Okay, so it's very hard to save. All right, my sister-in-law, and I'll talk a lot about when I brought along my sister-in-law because they are in some financial problems. Okay, she is a nanny. What's it called where you have kids in your house and they pay you? Daycare, home daycare. That's what I'm looking for. Home daycare. So she makes probably 25, 30 grand a year is probably what she makes. She loves her job. She's happy doing kids, right? But making $30,000 a year, you can't really have the finer things in life. You know what I mean? That's the difficult part. Okay. So for a lot of people, this is very difficult. Okay. If you're making $30,000 a year, it's hard to put away $3,000. Okay. If you're making $90,000 a year, it's much easier to put away $9,000 than it is, you know what I mean, if you're making less. Okay. So this is my suggestion, and you can listen to it or not. When you get your first job, and I'm going to say real job, and I put in quotes real, save like whatever, $25 per pay automatically. And then after that, save half your raises. Okay, because you got to start somewhere, and $25 a month or whatever shouldn't be much. What I did when I started out was I had a savings account that was not hooked up to my bank card, because I am a horrible person, okay? I do not go shopping, because when I walk down the mall and it says sale, my eyes light up and I get a big smile on my face, and I walk in the store and I have no money after that, okay? I know it's true, and I used to go grocery shopping, and I'd buy so much crap that I didn't need because it said sale. I'm a sucker for all this stuff, so, so it's awful. So the point is, what I used to do was I wouldn't bring my wallet with me where I go places. For the longest time, I wouldn't bring my wallet into school. I do now because I have to drive. Because I go to the cafeteria and say, yeah, no problem, let's get a coffee, let's get this, let's get that. Okay, the point is here for that, the second part says save half your raises. What am I trying to say about that? Why is that actually doable? Luke?
What you're saying is, say you've got like a, I don't know, like 20% raise.
Yeah.
Save half that.
Yeah. So let's say I get $100 extra a pay. Okay, why is it easy for me to save 50 out of that? Why should it be easy?
Because you split with less.
Yeah. So you're still giving yourself a bit of a bump up, right? But some's being put away. The whole idea for the whole thing about savings is that if I have, let's say I have $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 sitting in a savings account, I'm not worried about anything in life, okay, right? Let's say my car breaks down, I'm not, oh my goodness, what am I going to do, right? Or let's say that, my kid throws a ball through my front window, which hasn't happened yet, okay, right? I'm not freaking out saying, or I need a new roof, or I need a new furnace, or I need this and this and that, because that's where people get in trouble in life. They have themselves balanced out for sort of the basics, the fundamentals, but then when something weird happens, your motor goes on your truck, whatever, right, they're in trouble. They have to take out a loan or credit cards and all that sort of stuff, right? So by doing stuff like this, you have no worries at all, okay? And it's difficult when you're starting out. Like, life in your 20s sucks, at least mine did, okay, right? Once you get out of school and you have a job and you're trying to pay rent and bills and everything else, like, it's hard to keep spending money. Yes?
Shouldn't rule one be only use cash?
Maybe we'll talk about that in a sec, okay? So that's savings, okay? One thing I'm just going to talk in savings here. I hope your parents have this done for you already. If they haven't, I'm sorry. And right here is this is RESPs. What that stands for is Registered Education Savings Plan. That is a free 20%. And this is used from 0 to 30 years old towards schooling. So what happens is, let's say, for instance, Jennifer makes $1,000 at her summer job. She says, Mother, do I have an RESP? She says, yes, you do. She says, just go with me here. You go, okay, Mother, here's $1,000. You put this in my RESP. The bank will actually deposit $1,200 instead of $1,000. Okay, which is awesome. Which is like tremendously cool, awesome. Okay, so what I've done for my sweet little Ava and Jack, sorry, sweet little Jack. I want to speak Jack. It'll be sweet little Jack too. Okay. What I've done for them, even for right now, is every paycheck, like I think $37.50 comes out for each of them, so $75 altogether, just into this RESP, so that what will happen when they go to university, I'll have like $30, $40, $50, $60,000 sitting for them. Okay?
You're paying their full ride.
No. I'm going to, I can't think of any of this. I'm hoping to pay for at least probably 2 or 3 years of books, and I'm going to buy them each a house when they're, let me rephrase. I'm going to buy it out. Well, I'm going to buy it out. Well, I'm going to buy them a house and let them rent it out to their friends too, right? So it's not going to be like free. Like I'm going to take a loan for these houses to do, right? But the thought is that if they live in, rather than live in residence, they live in a house. Hopefully they'll have good friends, and it won't be a party house, and they'll, you know what I mean?
It'll be a party house.
It won't be. I'm not. Pi Sigma Delta. Yeah, that's all right. But that's the thing. So, but no. As far as you're asking, though, yeah, I hope for my kids. I have no idea how my school's going to be. That's the whole thing, right? But I'm hoping probably for them, to have a good chunk of money set aside for them. Okay. And again, the thing is, it's hard. I'm lucky. I'm a teacher. I have a good job. Okay, so I can do this when you're young. Most parents, when they're starting off and they have kids, if you have kids, if your parents were like 20 when they had you, they probably weren't well off, right? Like I already had my house bought by the time I had kids. Like it's a different situation, right? So, and I was lucky I could get into that, and it's automatic. I don't even think about it; it just comes off my paycheck, and there's no fear. Yes.
So when you were saying about like paying for things in the future, what about inflation? Because things are going to be priced different.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why you got to do a little bit of planning, right? And that's the hard part. Just one thing about these RESPs, because I saw Jennifer shaking her head. You have to open this before you're 16, which is bad news because you guys are all 16 now, okay?
Yeah.
So if you're 15, you can go to the bank and say, I'd like to open an RESP, but if you're 16 or older, you can't do it, okay, which sucks, okay? So ask your parents tonight, okay, if they have one, and if they do, give them all of your summer earnings, okay, because you'll get more money for it, okay? Assuming your summer earnings are going towards... No, just a 20%, not per year, just a single deposit, 20%. So what's that? Right on. And the thing is, if you just, like, let's say I'm saving this for Jack. Let's say Jack decides to be a lumberjack. Jack, lumberjack, get it, haha. And he doesn't decide to go to school. I can still get my money up, but they take the 20% back then, right? So let's say I deposited $50,000 for him, and they made it whatever 60. I have to give them $10,000, right, when I take it out, right? But I just, you know what I mean? You just take out what you put in then, okay? All right, any other questions on this? Please ask your parents about this. This is what I'm saying in your homework tonight. Ask your parents about this. If they have it, start adding up to it. Yes.
You like keep adding money to it until you're like at the end of your 16.
Yeah, I think it says you can. I think you can add in even later.
Like, I can start like I have to have all my money in before my 17th birthday.
I'm not sure when the date. I'm not sure. I think there might be like a 2-year thing, right? Like it's 2 years before you go to school, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know the exact. I'm not an accountant, okay? But I'm sorry, but I think. I should have her as a guest speaker.
Sure.
Oh. Sorry, did I make that noise?
She works at Investors
I didn't make
Group.
Yeah,
She works at Investors Group.
that's like a dream come true. Okay, believe that. Okay, so let's talk about schooling right now, university. Does anyone have a brother or sister that goes to school right now? Good.
Like older brother?
Yeah, older brother. University. For those people, what are you doing with my stuff?
I was just eating there, so.
Okay. Do you know how much tuition is?
Expensive as.
I think it's about. I think it's around $15,000 a year. I'm going to guess. And that's probably including residents, I think. It might be more than that, guys. So it might be more than that, but that's sort of like a minimum. It goes up every year. Okay, that's a lot of money. Now the thing is, as a teenager, you have no idea how much $15,000 is. That's a huge amount of money. Okay, $15,000 a lot. If you times that by 4, that's 60. Okay, if you times that by 10, you're going to be a doctor. That's 150,000. Okay, so that's a lot of money. When I went to teachers college, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I got put on something called a waiting list in Ontario, which I can realize means you're going to get in. Okay, but I didn't know that, so I freaked out. So I said I went to Buffalo. I remember I said it's the furthest south I've ever been. So I went to Buffalo for teachers college. When you are going to, when you're going to an international school, and yes, Buffalo is international. Okay, you do not actually get, the government pays like half your tuition or more. So I had to pay something like $30,000 for 1 year teachers college in the States. Okay, so what happened was I went to the bank. We'll talk about how to get money for school here in a sec. And I went to the bank and I said I need $30,000, and they said, okay, why? I said I want to be a teacher. They gave it to me because the job hopefully would be good and be able to pay off. Okay, but that's that you don't need. The same thing if you're a doctor, and some people they're older, people that are doctors, they'll be in huge debt when they're done school, because if you tell the bank you're going to be a doctor, they will lend you infinite amount of money almost. Yes.
So if you go to any international school, the government pays for half your...
No. Sorry, I misunderstood. If you go to the cost for this is the cost for a Canadian student. Okay. For an American student to come to Canada, it's going to be double.
Oh, okay.
Okay, right?
You mean, okay.
So it's really $30,000 a year for school in Canada,
yeah,
but the government covers half of that for you.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
Like you, completely unrelated, but you know how in Quebec there was like this whole big riot thing over like lowering tuition
Yeah.
increasing tuition a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
What's it like there?
It'll be the same. I don't think it's much more. It's not much, right? Yeah. Like yeah. Okay, so the question is how to pay for this. How do we pay for this? Okay, option number one is gifts. Okay, if you have a rich aunt that is willing to pay for your school, lovely. If your parents have money set aside, that's wonderful. If you saved up yourself, that's great. Okay, right? But that's the number one way, obviously, is not to have to borrow anything. Okay? Option number two is going to be scholarships. Depends. Well, the point is, though, it says apply for all of them. There are some scholarships that are 2 applicants, so apply for every scholarship you can. Let's say your mark is in high school, sort of 80 plus, you will be getting some money from St. Mary's. Okay, I give a $500 scholarship to the highest calculus student every year for myself. Okay, so that's $500 from me. I think there's something like $80,000 given out every year at graduation from St. Mary's. Not only that, when you get to universities will give you money. I decided to go to Waterloo because it was the greatest computer school when I went there. I could have gotten, I think, $6,000 from Toronto or like $8,000 from Ottawa to go there, but I didn't want to go to those schools. So I went to Waterloo and got nothing.
Did give you a scholarship to go?
Yes. Okay. Secondly, when you get to university, okay, let's do a little math problem here. Let's say that you go into a program that says you need 85 plus to get in. Okay, what does that mean? Yeah.
Your overall average needs to be above 85.
Yes. It also means that every student in your program will have that average in high school. In university, do you know what the average is in university? 67 is the average. So let's use some math. What does that mean that everyone's mark will drop then? 18%, okay, is what's going to happen to you first year university, okay? So if your mark doesn't drop that much, let's say you had a 90 in high school and you have an 80 in first year university, you know what, that's pretty darn good. Okay, so you can still apply for university scholarships at that time. Okay, even if you have a 70, still apply, right? This is free money, right? Like, so free money is what you want to have, right? If you go to church, churches give out scholarships, right? For sure. If your parents work at a certain place, ask. I think even like Tim Hortons has scholarships and stuff like this, right? So like ask at your work, you know, if you're a good worker or whatever, your parents' works depending on, please don't eat in here, okay? Your parents' jobs, so some of them will have that too, okay? Number 3.
Sports scholarships.
Yeah, that'll work there too. I'm trying to think of how they go because they're not really supposed to give you sports scholarships, okay? Like in Ontario, you're not really supposed to. They can give you things like they pay for your residence, okay? So you just stay in residence, you stay at this residence for free, but you still have to pay your whatever. So instead of 15, you have to pay 8, okay, a year or something like that, right?
They're not supposed to pay tuition for bribery.
Yeah, and they do it in the States. I think actually Katie got like a full ride out to BC, I think. You guys probably know her more than I do, right? But
I don't know, she got a full ride.
a lot of it paid for anyway, right? But if she would have went to an Ontario school, she probably would have got a little bit for like staying residence. But
Considering like McMaster too.
yeah, and the same thing if you guys are doing gymnastics, right? If you like the schools too, I'm sure if you keep doing it in there, they'll give you some sort of incentive to come to the school for that. Okay, just like your academic incentives, the same thing. Number 3 is OSAP. What this is a government loan. That is interest free. What the heck just happened? Until 6 months after you graduate.
Graduate university.
Yes. Must be paid in 10 years.
It's not. Yeah, what happens?
So you just start taking it from your paycheck. When I was, before I went to school, and I can't believe I tell you this story, but when I was in school, people they get OSAP, they get their, money, and then they just declare bankruptcy when they're graduating high school and they forgive it, they don't let you do that anymore. Okay, right, like that, that carries with you until your grave. That's gonna be bad to say, right, but you can't get away from those after that. It's available interest-free, you don't pay anything back, if they don't charge anything until 6 months after you graduate. What's the dream of, why do you think they chose 6 months after you graduate? The theory is that you'll have a job by then. Also, if they did it sooner, the way school goes, if you end in April, then you start again in September, so that, like, it's from 6 months from April, so if you go back in September, you know what I mean, you don't have to keep paying, like, it stays interest-free from that, okay? OSAP is a good deal if you need to borrow money. Okay, the problem with OSAP is if your parents make too much money, if your parents work at HICO, you cannot get OSAP, okay, right, because you're making too much money. Okay, so they have to pay for you for that.
You can't get OSAP?
No. If your parents make, I think it's the number's like 150,000 or something, your parents combined make 150,000, then you can't get, which makes sense, right, that if you have a lot of money, you should have to, you know, pay for yourself, right? Yeah. Number 4 then is a line of credit. And this is what I had to do when I went off to teach college in Buffalo. The thing is, since I wasn't going to Ontario school, OSAP's only good for schools in Ontario, right? I wasn't going to a school in Ontario, I had to get a line of credit. What's the difference, you think, between an OSAP loan and a line of credit loan from the bank? What's the difference? Interest starts right away, okay? Which is funny,
But
which
it can be
is,
waived
can it?
if you put a bank.
Interest starts right away. So here's the funny thing. When you're in school, unless you're working as a bartender or something, how much money do you have coming in? Not that much, okay? So if you take a line of credit interest, if you take a $15,000 loan, by the end of the year, it's going to be $15,500, right? And then it'll be $16,100, the beauty of compound interest, okay? So that's why you want to avoid a line of credit if you can, okay? Because there's extra stuff on it. I don't want to scare you guys. I want you guys to be aware of this, though, because it is frightening when you think about it. Number 5 is, what's it called? I don't know what it's called there, though. What's it called, the cash mart? Is that what it's called?
Oh, cash stores.
Yeah, cash mart,
Oh,
Money mart?
money mart, whatever.
Ones that, yeah, those are, I was better.
And I was going to say bad, never go there.
Bad, no.
And I wrote that on the board, never in your life go to that, ever. If you need money, come see me, okay? Don't, no, I'm just joking, don't. Okay? Don't never in your life go to one of those places, like they're awful, horrible, bad, okay?
It's like-
If you find yourself in that situation, you need to sit down and figure out a few things about how you're gonna proceed with your life, okay? I mean, as far as organization for yourself. What's that? They charge, I think there's a fee, there's a fee they put on the, like a check, and then plus it's like something like 60% interest on top of that too. Yeah, 60. But yeah, so it's awful, like it's horrible. All right, here we go. Let's talk about loans. I'll probably stop that there. Oh,
what's with that guy